Good evening everyone and welcome to the show. This is Andy Shed Live, Series 8, Episode 2. This one for Sunday the 10th of January 2021. I've still not gotten used really to saying 2021 yet. It's still not quite there in my mind yet. Well, hello to you all and hello to everybody who is there in the chat today. Just got to switch it to live chat because it comes on that silly top chat thing. So I've got to say hello to who I've got to say hello to who's in the chat already. Christopher 2000, Jimmy Myers, Dominic Meakin, and also Wesley Pigeon is joining us today. I think it's probably Wesley's first time, or it's at least his first time in the chat. So hello Wesley, wherever you happen to be out there. And Dominic, happy birthday, because Dominic's the birthday boy today. He's 21 again, apparently. So Dominic's having a birthday. And hello to Fat Hobbit as well, who's just popped up in there. There are more people in the chat. If I haven't mentioned you, it's because I can't see you until you actually say something in the chat on the system that I've got here. When you actually say something in the chat, then I can see your name, but I can't see a list of people who are just sort of mooching in there without saying anything. Yeah, you're welcome to, but I just can't see you, so I can't say hello to you. Hello there, Wesley. Right, we've got all sorts on the show for you today. We have been up to all kinds of things. I've been 3D printing again this week, as you can see from the pile of mess here at the side of me. So we've had the 3D printer going again this week. It's been doing all kinds of weird and wonderful things, and we'll tell you a little bit more about the stuff that we've been 3D printing in just a moment. But before that, I've got to say, as always, if you want to get in touch with us here at the show, the way to do it, at least initially, because I don't give out an email address on here, because if I do I get loads of spam. The way to get in touch with us via the contact form on our website, which is here, andyshed.colepress.net. That's the website to go to. You'll find a contact form to get in touch with us on there, at least to make the initial contact. Then I'll send you an email sort of thing. I don't put the email up on YouTube, because if I do, I get tons and tons and tons of spam, and I do mean tons of spam. And also remember, we have now got a shop as well. I'll be telling you more about the shop in just a moment, but the shop address is here. It's andysemporium.colepress.net. Do you see the similarity there? andysemporium.colepress.net, where you can buy vintage telephones, a few old telephone spares, and crucially, what we're going to be talking about next as well, which is the models. Now, I had some of the little 009 scale models on last week, if you remember. I've got some of them here behind me. We had things like the open coach here on last week, if you remember. You remember having these little 009 scale models on last week? Well, you may have spotted that since last week, this has gained a coupler on one end. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know how it's going to come out on this camera. But can you see there's a coupler now on there? We've managed to 3D print couplers. I'm mega impressed. If I can get it under the other camera and show you under the other camera, I will. Just a second. Oh, that's a messy shot of a messy desk today, isn't it? Right, let's move this camera around a bit. So, can I move it? No, I can't, not really. But if I can get it in focus, wrong way. You'll see we've now got a coupler on it. Can you see that? And this is actually a 3D printed coupler. It's kind of semi-prototypical for narrow gauge. It's kind of a big buffer and a hook that another one hooks into. Now, where's another one I can show you. Here's another one I can show you. Right, I'm going to... oh, hang on, you're looking at me still there, aren't you? Right. I'm going to take the bodies off these little wagons, these little coaches, so you can see what's going on a bit easier. But right, if I now show you this under here, look. Right, I'm on the right camera this time. You can see that they are sort of round buffer things with a hook. So what happens is that little hook goes on there like that, and they couple together like that, and it works quite well. And we 3D printed the coupler. If you want to see one that's not attached, right, and they're tiny when they're not attached. Here is one that's not attached to anything, and there it is, coupled up. But that is the coupler. So these will be going into the shop quite soon. They're not in there yet, but they'll be going into the shop in the next few days when we do an update, because also coming into the shop in the next few days will be the latest model, which is the tanker. You see the tanker? You want to get it under the other camera for you? Yeah, the latest model is a little 09 scale tanker. Now these are unpainted and unfinished sort of thing. You know, they need kind of filing in places and rubbing down and painting properly and that. So this is just the bare plastic, basically, just quickly glued together to give you an idea of what the thing is. But there is the tanker, which again will be coming into the shop very soon, and the idea is that we're making these models available very, very cheaply. They're going to be around about the £5. One of these is going to be around about a £5. So I just got fed up of everything being so expensive in the model railway world. I thought it doesn't need to be that expensive. So they're going to be about a £5, and they're going to be available in the shop, which once again is here and is emporium.corepress.net. The first few are in there now. The open coach is there. The van is there. The box van thing, the goods van, and there's an open wagon there as well. The tanker will be joining them this coming week, all being well. Cool. Right. So I'll put that lot away now, because, well, there is just rather a lot of it. Just bear with me a second while I put all the bits and pieces back. So I'm working out of a very small studio here, and it's just not terribly easy to work out in this tiny studio. Now, there are 11 people watching before. There's only 8 now, so I've obviously bored 3 of them to death. Hello there. We're just waiting for everything to power back on. Sorry about that. The computer all conked out and reset itself there. So hopefully we will be getting back on somewhere around about now, I'm hoping. Just bear with me 1 second while I make sure that we are actually back online. Yep, I believe we're back. I hope we're back. Can you hear me? You can, hopefully. I think we're kind of back, but I just need to let the stream settle down just for a moment or two. So just bear with me one moment. I think we're kind of back. Yep, we're back. We're back. We've managed to survive it somehow. Not quite sure how, but we did. So yeah, we are back. There's a bit of latency on the stream as well tonight, which isn't exactly helping things, shall we say? Right, just turn my volume up just a little bit. Something sounded a bit quiet there. Right. So I told you all about the models and that, and this is the latest one that's going to be going into the shop soon. The little tanker. If anybody has got any requests for models, then let me know, because somebody requested the tanker. Actually, somebody I know. I told them that I was doing the models and said, "Have you done a tanker?" And I went, "Oh, no, I haven't actually." So somebody I know requested the tanker, and that's why we've got a tanker now. Christopher 2000 says, I finished wiring my 00 gauge signal lever frame on my model railway today, and wiring up my GPO 162 wall phone to the telephone switchboard. Sounds like you've had a busy day there, Christopher. It's well, yeah, all sorts of stuff going on there. You've really kept yourself busy today. Of course, we've got something sort of telephone related to do here today as well, because it's time to start taking apart and having a look at this. Yeah, this is one of the phones that came along last week. This is a telephone 1/764, made in 1978 by Gen. Is that a GEC code, Gen? Is it? Can't remember who code Gen is. But yeah, we need to take this apart, because these phones are some of the first push button phones that were around. They are push button, but they work not on DTMF like a modern push button phones. They are pulse push buttons, and the way they work is they remember what buttons you've pressed and then pulse it all out in turn at 10 pulses per second. To do that, they have to have a battery inside, a little rechargeable battery, and of course those batteries are now dead. So what we need to do today is we need to take this apart and get at the battery and get it out to see what we can do about replacing it. So the first thing we need to do, just like a 746, is undo that little screw in the back, which on this particular one falls out. These should normally be retained, but on this particular example it does fall out, but they should really be retained. I'll put that over there for a moment. So now we've got that screw out. Knocking things over here. Should be able to lift the top off. So lift away, Andy. What is happening there? Move that out of the way. Right, why is that not wanting to come off? I think it's just that it's awkward. There's nothing actually holding it on. It's just the fact that these are really, really awkward phones to get the top off the case. Always have been awkward, probably always will be. American phones, so much easier to get the top off without damaging anything. But that's it, we've done it. A bit of brute force and ignorance. And it's filthy inside this case. Just look at that in there. Which way is the camera there? How filthy that is on the inside. So there it is anyway. There it is with with the top off, and if I turn it around that way, in that little red box there is the battery. But the thing is, if you look down in there, you'll see the back of the box is split, probably because the battery has expanded in some way, and that needs to come out now and get sorted out. So we'll get it out. I will find a trusty screwdriver. I've got to go down here to find the screwdriver. I got something else a couple of weeks back that I've not shown you yet, telephone related. A British Telecom toolbox. A genuine British Telecom toolbox from the 1980s. So I now need a screwdriver there. Because I think this is going to be a case of a bit of almost brute force and ignorance getting this out. This should be just clipped in. It should just be on a little spring-loaded clip there, and it should easily come out. But the problem with this one, as I say, is it seems to have expanded and somehow got itself stuck. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll try and unplug it here. And that little thing just unplugs. So now it should be possible to just pry it out. There it goes. Don't know if there's some glue or something on it, or if it's just the fact the thing has expanded and gone funny over time. And there, then you can see how the battery there has kind of gone oddball. But that might not be a bad thing, because we need to change the battery anyway. So what we really need to do is get into this case, and it's kind of started getting the back off the case for us. So if I can just get the rest of the back off, and this is where we might have a problem. We might end up breaking it a bit. But oh, there we go. And there's what's inside. There's the battery, that cells that are inside it. And that's it. That's what you've got in there, and you can see the one that's all come apart basically, and sort of exploded, or not exactly exploded, but it's grown. I'm just trying to read what it actually says on the back of these batteries, what they are. DEAC, I believe, is written on there. Now I'm going to have problems with the light on this, aren't I? As I always do, but can you see that? DEAC in there. Is that 50 DK or 150 DK on the other side of it? I'm guessing each of those is 1.5 volts. So there you're going at. There you've got 4 of those. So you've got about 6 volts there with that. And what would have happened was they're connected positive on that side of that one to negative on that side of that one across the bottom there, you see. So basically that's positive, that's negative, so your two wires will be attached onto there under those little clip things there. In fact, that's kind of the remains of a solder tag there and there. And I've lifted them up, you can see them a bit better. So that's what's in there, and that's what we need. That's what we need to replace. So we will need to get some little cells to replace those that hopefully we can fit back into this little plastic case and put it back together. Now this little plastic case, you see, I should be able to put that back together like that, hopefully, and we should be able to reuse that. Now of course, if we can't, the 3D printer is here, so I might be able to print these, so we'll have to have a look at that. But aren't these phones complex inside? Just to make it a keyboard instead of a dial. It doesn't even dial in tone, this. It still dials using pulsers. Look at all the extra gubbins inside this. Just look at it all. Circuit boards packed under there as part of the down mechanism. Was it really worth it just so you could do that instead of doing that? Was it really worth all that trouble? I don't think so, personally. Oh, dear me. So that's what we need to do there. We need to get a new battery on there, and it tells you under the phone what battery it is. It would have been use a secondary number 22, a battery secondary number 22. Here's what it would have been, because it's a red one. There were red versions and blue versions of these. They are different. I think one's a 21, one's a 22, or one's a 22 and one's a 23 or something. I can't remember exactly. But the red ones are battery 22s. And of course, you can't get these for love nor money now. If you can get one, if somebody is on eBay selling one of these now, do not buy it, because it'll be old stock, and you wouldn't buy a battery for your phone that's 30 or 40 years old, would you? Because of course the battery will be no good by now. So don't buy these. They're really not worth it. If you buy these, all you are basically buying is the case. Dominic said, "Is that yellow?" And then he said, "Oh no, I see it's ivory on the inside." No, Dominic, I don't. It's not actually badly faded. I don't know if it looks more yellowy on the stream than it does in the real light here, but it's not actually a badly suntanned one. Some of them are a lot worse than this. But no, and the cases on these are actually normal 746 cases with this fancy bit put on the front. If I can get it in position and take the fancy bit off the front, you can then see it's a normal 746 case. It is a bit sort of suntanned. It is a bit yellowy with age. Where I've taken that off, you can see the difference, but it's not terribly bad. I've seen some a lot worse. So that just clips on the front of there and then just turns around to the correct position, which is that way up, or you can indeed have it that way up if you've got one of those strange wall conversion kit things, where you have the strange little metal thing that you put on the switch hooks so you can put the receiver on that way rather than that way. So there's the case for it. So put that down there, out the way a minute. Fat Hobbit says, I don't think it was worth it, but at the time they wanted to look ahead of the game. Yeah, but they weren't ahead of the game though, because these came out in the mid 1970s, basically mid to late 1970s. They were pulse dialing, just like a dial phone, and the Americans had tone dialing, DTMF, since the 60s. So even these phones, when they came out, these very complicated phones, they were still very much behind the times. They should just have gone straight in to the tone dialing. Perhaps we ought to have had American 500 series phones, or whatever the keypad version of the 500 is. Is it 2500 or something like that? 2500, something like that. Perhaps we should have had those instead, because they could potentially have been built by Northern Telecom in Ireland. They wouldn't have had to get them from America. Graham Townsend is with us. Hi Graham. He says, I've got a couple of phones that look very similar, but they are tone dial and have extra keys, one of which is a hash key, and made in New Zealand, not the UK. Yeah, the two extra keys, one should be a hash and one will be a star, if they are tone dialing, if they're DTMF. The way DTMF works is it works in a grid pattern. Basically, all the columns make a tone, so every key in that column makes a tone, every key in that column makes a tone, and every key in that column makes a tone. So 3 different tones. Tone for column 1, tone for column 2, tone for column 3. And every key in a row makes another tone. So there's a second tone, which is the top row, a second tone on the second row, a second tone on the third row, and a second tone on the fourth row. So there's 1, 2, 3 downward tones by 1, 2, 3, 4 tones across. Alright, so it's a 3x4 grid of tones, and when you press a key, whichever key you press, it does a combination of those 2 tones together, which is a bit like playing a chord on a piano or something. So the sound that you hear is a mixture of 2 tones, and that sound is then unique to that position on the grid. Now, of course, because there is your 0 key at the bottom here, there's 2 grid positions here that aren't used, and they are your star and hash key positions on DTMF. So on DTMF, where it works with tones, it works in a grid pattern. This phone though doesn't work with tones, but it's a grid pattern, and the 2 missing on the grid there. If it was a DTMF phone, it would have those extra 2 buttons, the star and the hash. Dominic says, here's the reason the exchanges weren't ready for tone dialing. So this was released as a stopgap to keep premium subscribers happy. Yeah, you could be right there, but was it really worth it? I mean, remember, they didn't really, they didn't pander much to subscribers wanting different telephones at the time. You had your basic desk phone, your 746, or your wall phone, and that was it. You had a phone you could put on the desk, you had a phone you could put on the wall, you had a trim phone as well, of course. That was it. You didn't have a big range of phones. So I'm surprised that they started to offer keypads, even when the keypads were not DTMF. Christopher 2000 says the DTMF Western Electric phones are 2500s and 1500s. Thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, I thought that's what they were. Yeah, personally, I think that's what we should have had in the UK. I think when it got to that stage, we were so far behind the curve. We could have easily had those phones. They had them. I know they certainly had the dial version. They had the 500s in Ireland. But I don't know if they got the DTMF phones in Ireland, if they got the keypad phones. But I have got some of the keypad ones that came from America. Graham says, thanks for the explanation. You're very welcome, Graham. Farbit says, I agree, Andy. The customers definitely were not the king in those days. No, they certainly weren't, were they? The customers were not even customers. The customers were subscribers. You know, and you got what you were given. You basically subscribed to the service. If you wanted a telephone, the GPO, or what was later Telecom, had a monopoly. If you wanted a telephone, you subscribed to them, or you didn't have a telephone, and you got what you were given, more or less. Of course, you could pay more and have a trim phone. I think you had to pay considerably more to get a trim phone. Christopher 2000, who is in the chat, I think he said once that one of his family had a trim phone in the early days. When they were in England, they were premium subscribers. So yeah, premium subscribers. Yeah, brilliant. We had a wall phone. People say, what phone did you have in the house at the time? My mum and dad had a wall phone. It was either a 711 or a 741. I don't know which one it was, which of the two it was. It was certainly in the 1970s when they got it. Sort of mid 1970s, I think, when they got it. So it could have been either. But yeah, it was an ivory wall phone. I remember it well. Right, I've caught up, I think, in the chat. So what I need to do is I need to find some little cells to go in here. So the name of the game this week is going to be to have a hunt for some small, possibly rechargeable batteries to go in this little casing, to fit into here, so that we can put all this back together, fit these wires back to it, plug it back in, then hopefully this phone will then work. Hopefully. But just look how complicated it is. It's just so complex inside here. And it's not been used in a good long time because A, there's no line cord on it at all, and B, it's not been converted for plug and socket, so it's not been used in a heck of a long time, this. Now I've got an errant orange wire here. I'm just wondering where that's coming from. Where on earth does that go in all this wired spaghetti? Oh, it's going. It's going off down this loom. I believe it's that one there. Going down the loom, and it's going down this loom on this side, and it's actually going into the thing behind the keypad, this big block behind the keypad, this big block here behind the keypad. So I don't know if that orange wire needs to go somewhere. Normally an orange wire just goes to a switch or something. I'm not sure. Or it goes to a dial. But I'm not quite sure with these. I would need to look at a wiring diagram specific to one of these phones, because it's got so many extra wires to what a 746 has. This board in the back of here is a standard board for a 746, but there's just extra things added on. I mean, all this is 746, but this is extra. Obviously the battery mount is extra, and all the stuff under the keyboard here is extra, but the basic chassis of the phone is a standard 746. They've just made it extra uber complicated, and of course you've got this extra strip of contacts down here as well. And just made it, as I say, extra uber complicated by making it a keypad phone. What you could do, if you couldn't get it working and you wanted it to work, you could theoretically strip all these gubbins off, put a dial on, and turn this into a 746 relatively easily. So if you were to ever find a load of these cheap and not working, then you could take the keypads off and put dials on and make them into 746s and get them working. It would not be difficult to do that. I found a date in it down here, 16th of August 1970 blob. Yeah, I can't read the last character, but it does say underneath that it's 1978 and the blob could be an 8, so 16th of August 1978 perhaps, that blob. So yeah, so that's it. That is basically what this is all about. I've got to refill this box with a little battery from somewhere, so that's what I'll do this week. I will find out about this battery this week, and I'll have to get back to you on that one. Right, let me catch up with the chat. If any of you've got any questions about anything at all, by the way, fire them into the chat now, and I'll try and answer them. Christopher says, my mum still has the trim phone today in Australia that she brought over from the UK. Yeah, and if I remember right, Christopher, isn't it a Snowden one that she's got? Isn't it one of the more colourful ones, one of the Snowden range ones, which are valuable? Because I did say to her, keep it, didn't I? Dominic says, I noticed there's a red 706 featured on the original Muppet Show Newsflash segment. Is there? Ah, that's interesting. A red 706. So it's on the Muppet. So it's on the Muppet Newsflash, the newsreader. It's got it on the desk, has he? It could well be, because of course what a lot of people don't realise about the Muppet Show is the Muppets are British. It's a bit like Thunderbirds. A lot of people think Thunderbirds are American, but the Muppets and Thunderbirds originally came from the same TV channel here. They were both a commission for ATV here in the UK, which, although ATV was a Midlands franchise of ITV when ITV first started, it had studios in London at Elstree. Now, well, actually at Boreham Wood, because Boreham Wood is the next place down to Elstree, but they always call studios built in Boreham Wood Elstree Studios. To tell you the story quickly, there's been 5 or 6 different studio complexes in Boreham Wood, all of which have been called Elstree Studios or a permutation of Elstree Studios. There are 2 remaining. There is Elstree Film and Television Studios, which is where the first 3 Star Wars films were made, the first 3 Indiana Jones films were made, where The Shining was made. More recently it's been doing television, it's where Big Brother comes from, it's where Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, a lot of those were done there, Dancing on Ice was done there as well. Across the road from Elstree Film and Television Studios is what is now BBC Elstree, the BBC Elstree Centre. But that was, before the BBC took it over, that was the London home of ATV, because this Midlands franchise had some studios in London, because they quite rightly thought, we're not going to make decent programmes in Birmingham, because nobody who is a megastar from America or something that flies into London is going to want to trek up to Birmingham to our TV studios. So they opened the studios in London to hopefully attract people in from America that happen to be in London. Now there's a long story about why they had to get rid of that studios and that, but the BBC took it over and now they make EastEnders there. But when it was in the hands of ATV, the Muppets were made there, and Jerry Anderson's UFO, part of UFO was made there. Not Thunderbirds and that, they were made for ATV, but they were made basically on an industrial estate out in Slough. But if you look at the opening credits for UFO, there's a very modern car going sort of up to a massive skyscraper building, a very sort of 60s or early 70s modernist skyscraper. That skyscraper is actually the studio complex at what was then ATV at Boreham Wood, but is now BBC Elstree. Also famous for Grange Hill. The exteriors for Grange Hill used to be done there as well. Where am I going now with this? I'm just reading the chat again. Dominic says, was Crossroads filmed there? That would be ironic for a Brum TV company filming their Brummy soap in Elstree. No, Crossroads was actually done. They had another studio in Birmingham, and Crossroads was actually done there. And the Birmingham studio, I believe, was taken over by Central when ATV lost its franchise and became Central. And of course that's since gone and it's changed again. I don't know what it is now in Birmingham. What's the ITV region now in Birmingham? Is anybody from Birmingham on here? What's the ITV region? What is the company that operates in Birmingham? Graham says UFO and Space 1999 classic. Yeah, I don't know where Space 1999 was done, but UFO was certainly done at Elstree. But I believe the models for UFO, I believe they were done out on the industrial estate in Slough. If you look on YouTube, there are videos and that all about Jerry Anderson. There's a lot of documentaries and that about Jerry Anderson stuff and about the old studios in Slough, which have very recently been torn down. So they were on an industrial estate in Slough. They were basically just a little industrial unit, and they've very recently been demolished to make way for some modern development of some kind. Christopher says he's never seen the trim phone. His mum had in the UK. She put it in the loft and forgot about it, Christopher. I bet she's put it in the loft and forgot about it. Fat Hobbit says he can't imagine Amy Turtle wanting to travel to London. No, I don't think Amy Turtle did want to travel. You can remember Crossroads. Who can remember Crossroads? Christopher's going to go, what the hell's Crossroads? But yeah, your mum will remember Crossroads, Christopher. Ask your mum about Crossroads. Yeah. Of course, it famously came back a few years ago, all very glamorous. Crossroads did, and sort of very glamorous and glitzy version of Crossroads came back. It wasn't successful at all. But yeah, it was the rubbish soap to end all rubbish soaps was Crossroads. Graham Townsend says Space 1999 was done at Pinewood. Was it? That's entirely possible, but why would it have been made at Pinewood? Got no idea. Fat Hobbit says, I remember Crossroads very fondly. It was so bad it was good. It was, wasn't it? My favourite was the chef, Shuey McPhee. Can you remember the chef, Shuey McPhee? When Benny used to go into the kitchen and go, get out, Benny, get out of my kitchen. Dominic says, didn't the motel burn down all the time like the Rovers? It certainly burnt down at least once. It did. It burnt down at least once. And they burnt the actual... and to do it, they actually assembled the set. The set of... the sort of reception foyer area. They assembled the set in a field at night, so there wasn't any natural light on it, lit it with lights the way they would light it indoors, and then set it on fire and made a big black smoke cloud because it was made out of all sort of plastic leatherette furnishing and things. Graham Townsend says Gabrielle Drake was in Crossroads. Yes, that was after the fire. Gabrielle Drake came along to Crossroads. Christopher says I've never seen Crossroads. You're missing out, Christopher. For somebody who likes old things, you need to get on YouTube or something and look for an episode of Crossroads. So yeah, well, when we finished, everybody all of a sudden Crossroads is going to get a load of viewers when we finish tonight, isn't it? Because everybody on here is going to stop watching this and type into YouTube Crossroads Motel. Yeah. Right, I've caught up again. Marvellous. So yeah. I didn't know Space 1999 was made at Pinewood. I've learnt something there about Space 1999. I wonder why it was done at Pinewood. He got Jerry Anderson always kind of wanted to be doing something a bit more than he was doing, which is why his shows were probably so good, because he was always wanting to push the envelope. The famous thing about Jerry Anderson was he always wanted to do live action shows, but he was too good at doing puppet shows, and because his puppet shows were so good, nobody ever gave him a chance to do live action because he just wanted more puppet shows. Thunderbird is ace. We don't want you to do live action, we just want you to do more Thunderbirds, Jerry. And they had that problem for a long time, and I think in the end he said, right, I'm not doing any more unless you let me do some live action. And that's when Space 1999 and UFO came along. But I think they were the other way around, weren't they? I think UFO was first and then Space 1999. Then he had a big break and didn't do anything. Then he went back to puppets again with Terrorhawks in the early 80s. Right, I'm putting this phone back together. I'm going to try and put the top back on this now. Wish me luck. If I can get all these wires in. So I've just got to hook that bit on the front there under the front edge of here. Like so. Then see, it doesn't want to go back on either. Why? What is wrong with this? Oh, I've trapped that in it for a start. Let's wedge that down there somewhere for a minute. There you go. It's gone back on a hell of a lot easier than it came off, hasn't it? Yeah, it's gone back on a lot easier than it came off. Graham says Space 1999 used Pinewood Studios, sound stages L and M. How do you know this, Graham? I'm very impressed with how you know. Or are you Googling it? Are you sat in front of a computer and Googling it? If you're not Googling it, I'm dead impressed that you... Christopher says, I've only seen the British shows Love Thy Neighbour on the buses. Are You Being Served? And The Bill. Did you see my old UK police jacket I was wearing in my live stream? I did, yeah. I hadn't twigged it was a police jacket, but yeah, it was, wasn't it? Now thinking about it. Jimmy says, do you remember Joe 90? I do remember Joe 90. I remember Joe 90 as being a bit rubbish as well. Not Jerry's best work, Joe 90. Not Jerry's best work at all, I'm afraid. No, I wasn't keen on Joe 90. No, Thunderbirds was the one, wasn't it? Thunderbirds was always the one. Yeah, it was just way better than the others. Graham Townsend said he's found all the information about Space 1999 from Wikipedia. I knew you didn't know that, you see. Nobody in the world knew that. It's quite alright you're allowed to use Wikipedia. I'm just fascinated to know. I'm going to go and research that myself now because I want to know why it went all the way. You see, what you don't realise about all these things. I remember when I first saw Star Wars. I didn't see Star Wars in a movie theatre. I first saw Star Wars when it first came onto TV in the early 1980s. And when Yoda came on in the swamp, and he came on, you must have, and I thought, why has Yoda got Fozzie Bear's voice? And of course later I found out that the guy that puppeteers Yoda and provides the voice is the great Frank Oz, who also does Fozzie Bear in the Muppet Show. And I thought, well, that's a hell of a jump between doing the Muppet Show and Fozzie Bear, you know, on this little good but relatively small television show in the UK, and then in this big glamorous American movie and being Yoda in that. Until I first visited Boreham Wood, and then I realised that where the Muppet Show was made and where those scenes in Star Wars are filmed, it's a 5-minute walk across Shenny Road if you dawdle. Right? It's a 2-minute walk if you walk briskly. So it would, you know, all these people would have mixed in their lunch hours around about that time, late 1970s, early 1980s. You'd got things like the Muppets. You'd got it was a bit late for Jerry Anderson, but Terrorhawks was probably going into production around about the time. You got that, and then across the road from ATV at BBC Elstree. No, across the road from ATV, which became BBC Elstree, but over the road at Elstree Studios, you've got all these big American movies, and that's why people like Frank Oz crossed from ATV into these big American movies that were being filmed literally 5 minutes walk away. You could throw a stone off the Muppet Show set and hit the moon of Tatooine with it. You know, and I've done it. I've walked between the two many times. So that's why all these things crossed over, and it's one of the reasons why they got so many big name stars on the Muppet Show. I mean, there's a Muppet Show that's got R2D2 and C3PO in it, and I think Mark Hamill appears on it as Luke Skywalker as well. And that's because they were probably filming either Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi at the time. literally 5 minutes across the road. He probably did the Muppet Show in his lunch hour, because it was literally the other side of the road. Graham Townsend said, "It's amazing to me that Star Wars and Doctor Who could emanate from the same country. The production values are so dissimilar." Yeah, well, they were totally different, but you see, it was the BBC lot doing Doctor Who. It was American money doing Star Wars. I mean, the production values on Doctor Who have gone up a lot since the new Doctor Who came along. What, you say it's still crap? Yes, I know, sorry. Sorry, I've got some good news if you're a Doctor Who fan. They're finally getting rid of Jodie Whittaker at the end of this series. Yes! They're finally getting rid of Jodie Whittaker. It's not that I don't think there should be a female Doctor. The female Doctor is fine. Just not Jodie Whittaker. Alright? What you could do, you could get a cardboard cutout of Jodie Whittaker and stand it on the set, and it would have more acting ability than the real Jodie Whittaker. She's rubbish! Dominic says, "I'm going to head off now. Thanks all, and see you next week." Yeah, thanks Dominic. See you next time. Have a good birthday. Are you doing anything exciting for your birthday? You can't be doing much because we're in lockdown, but you might be doing something exciting. He's probably going to go and Google Space 1999. That's what he's going to go and do, isn't it? Fat Hobbit says, "Who do I think will be the next Doctor Who?" Oh, that's a good question. Will there even be a next Doctor Who, or will it get cancelled? It probably won't get cancelled because the BBC don't rely on ratings, and although the ratings are in the toilet, because we have to pay for it in the UK anyway through the licence fee, and they don't rely on the ratings, then we probably will have another Doctor Who, even though nobody will be watching it by then. I think what they should do, I think they should somehow, because the Doctor can travel in space and time, I think the TARDIS should somehow go back into well, any era before Jodie Whittaker, basically, but maybe go back to just before Jodie Whittaker took over and totally retcon all Jodie Whittaker's episodes out of it, and totally retcon out of it all the rubbish that Chris Chibnall had written in the last couple of years as well, because there is a man who writes like a 3-year-old. He's got absolutely no idea at all. Shall I do my Doctor Who rant on this? Yeah, shall I do the Doctor Who rant? I'll go off the telephone for a minute. I'll do my Doctor Who rant. Right. I have not watched a single episode of Doctor Who with Jodie Whittaker in since the first one that she did, because Jodie Whittaker and her band of fam, i.e. all the people they've had to bring in because one assistant isn't enough to make up for Jodie Whittaker's crapness, they had to have a whole band of them. Well, they're just hopeless. So I watched the first episode with Jodie Whittaker in, written I believe by Chibby, Chris Chibnall himself, and it involved the Tooth Monster. Now, the thing is, somehow they end up on top of this train. It starts somehow with them end up in this train, alright, in the middle of the night. There are people going to work on this train. Where do you get a commuter train in the middle of the night? And it's the beginning of the middle of the night as well. Where is this train going that's a commuter train in the middle of the night? So then it turns out this guy who is kind of guest star on the episode drives a tower crane. Yeah? And he's going to work at night. What building site works? Where do you operate a tower crane in the middle of the night when you can't see? And then later on, they're all climbing up this tower crane, and it's still night. So it must be doing a night shift on a building site on a tower crane. Where is there a tower crane in a building site that works at night and doesn't work in the day? You tell me. And then, yeah, just don't even go there. Yeah. Fat Hobbit says, I wish they could get Christopher Eccleston back. There has been talk of that, I believe. There has been talk of that. Graham Townsend says, pregnant men, really? Yeah. Jimmy says, got to go, Andy. My mate is zooming at 7:30. See you next week. Cheers, Jimmy. See you next time. Bye. There he is with that camera. I'm terrible at looking at the camera. I'm nearly as bad as Jodie Whittaker. Yeah. So, yeah, she's just hopeless. Yeah, they need to retcon at least a couple of series of Doctor Who. I liked Peter Capaldi, and I very much like Jenna Coleman. In fact, I'm going to say something controversial here. I think Peter Capaldi may be the best Doctor there's ever been, and I think Jenna Coleman may be the best assistant there's ever been. There, I've said it. To melt YouTube that well. Yeah, I think they were both very, very, very good. And Stephen Moffat could write a story as well. He's responsible for my favourite ever Doctor Who monsters, which is the Weeping Angels. And what I found so good about the Weeping Angels was they're real, aren't they? You know, the Weeping Angels, which were like statues in a churchyard. You know, if you imagine being a kid watching Doctor Who, you watch Doctor Who on a Saturday night, you go for a walk on Sunday morning, you walk past a churchyard, your local churchyard, and there will be one of those angels in the churchyard. You know, it'll scare the living Jesus out of you. So I thought that was a really, really good idea, to take something that you're likely to be able to see and turn it into a monster, and have a way in the plot of the thing being even more scary because it's not moving, because it can only move when you're not looking at it. So you're looking at it now and it's not moving, but how do you know it was there 5 minutes ago when you weren't looking at it? It was just the most brilliant thing, the Weeping Angels. Absolutely terrifying. The Daleks and that never scared me. No Doctor Who monster ever scared me. Until the Weeping Angels came on. The Fat Hobbit says, the Weeping Angel was terrifyingly realistic. We have something similar in the cemetery where I walk my dog. Yeah, every cemetery's got one in it, hasn't it? And that's what's brilliant about it. I bet when you walked your dog after that Weeping Angels episode went out, I bet you steered clear of that Weeping Angel and that cemetery, didn't you? Just absolutely brilliant. One of the simplest things in the history of time to make, because it doesn't move. You know, you don't even have to have a man in a suit or any complicated animatronic. You just have to make 2 or 3 of them in different positions, perhaps. Absolutely brilliant. The brilliant Stephen Moffat. That guy is brilliant. And I see there's a video gone up on YouTube that is allegedly, I've not watched it yet because I only had to see it just before I was starting this live stream. But there is a video apparently of Stephen Moffat saying why Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall have ruined Doctor Who. So I'm going to watch that later. Right, back to the old telephones. Christopher says, do you know what it means when the 706 phone, when the switch hook gets stuck down when you lift the handset? Yeah, it's probably the case that's not on, right, Chris? If this case isn't on quite right, you can see, I don't know if you can see it on this, but you see the hole for the switch hook there. Well, there's absolutely no gap behind it, but there's a big gap in front of it. And so, you see there, see how it's stuck down? Now, if I jiggle this case, it comes up again, you see that? All I've got to do is just jiggle the case a bit and it pops up. So it's possibly the case. I wonder you couldn't see that because it was on the wrong camera. Right, let me do it again. Right, look. The switch hook there, look. You see there's no space that side of it, but there's a big gap that side of it. So what can happen if the case isn't fitted quite properly? The switch hook can go down and stick down. You see, like that, and you jiggle it and it comes up. Can you see that? I've pushed it down. Just jiggle it a bit and it comes up again. Yeah, and it's because the case isn't fully down properly. Make sure the case is fully down onto that grommet where the cords come out, and make sure those grommets are fully pressed down as well. So it's probably just a badly fitting case. The cases on them fit terribly. You know, and you have to use a bit of force sometimes to get them into place, and it's a very fine line between using enough force to get the cases on and off and using too much force and breaking them. So yeah, it's probably that's probably the problem with it. It says it's not the case on the phone. He says when I push the switch up down, it pops back up. Right. The old UK police sergeant. So what you say then? You're saying the switch hook sticks down. You're saying the switch hook sticks down, but it's not the case. Alright. Right. I'm not sure about that one, Chris. I was just thinking about that one for a minute. Yeah, I'm not terribly sure what's happening there then. You say when you do that it pops back up, but it gets stuck down when you lift the handset. So if you put the handset on and lift it, you say it's stuck, but if you do that it pops back up all the time. Is that what you're saying? Right, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this name. Alright, I am Apio Brandolamolo. Hi Andy, I'm sorry for absolutely crucifying your name there. Sorry. I just got an analog phone which I would love to convert, but it seems to be wired differently. I have two white, a blue and a yellow cable, no red, and it still has a plug. Right, okie dokie. Right, Fat Hobbit says he's got to sign off. Bye Fat Hobbit, see you next time. Right, you've got two whites, a blue and a yellow cable. First thing we need to do is identify what sort of phone it is that you've got. If you go onto the website here, andyshed.callpress.net, and you fill in the contact us form, and send me a message on there. I'll message you back with an email, and then when you get the email address you can then send a photo to it, because we need to identify what phone it is. It may be it's a non-British phone, because there are a lot of phones in the UK that didn't start out here. There's a lot from places like Portugal and places like that. So it may be that you've got a non-British phone and that's why you've got different coloured wires in it. So we need to figure out what phone it is rather than the colour of the cables, because it may be that it doesn't need converting. If it's American or something like that, it won't need converting because they're what they call REN 1 anyway, not REN 4, and you need it to be REN 1 in the UK. Graham says to Christopher, a small file will solve the sticking problem. Yeah, if indeed that is what's doing it. They shouldn't stick though. If the case is on properly, you know, they shouldn't stick. If they're sticking, it's because there's something not quite right somewhere. It's either the case or it's something on the inside of the phone that's bent. You know, part of the inner chassis of the phone that's bent somewhere, I would say. Right, I'm going to finish putting this one back together. It says here, I'm in Switzerland and the phone is from here or Germany. Right, that's probably why you've got different coloured wires then, I would say. Like I say, drop me a message to andyshed.coldpress.net, go on there, then click on the contact us thing, drop me a message, and I'll email you back and I'll send you and you'll be able to send me a picture then of the phone hopefully, and we'll figure it out from there as to what the phone actually is. But also, are all four of those wires actually wired up to the plug? Because just because it's got four wires, they're not necessarily all connected. So, but yeah, you probably don't need to do much of a conversion on it. Probably just a case of taking the plug off and fitting a different plug that works for whatever system you guys have got over there. Right, think we're about at the wrapping up stage for today. A big thanks to everybody for joining us once again. And remember, you can always go to the website andyshed.coldpress.net to find out more about phones and stuff. And you can also, remember, go to the shop and find out more about the 009 railway stuff. And, well, as for Doctor Who, there's less said about that the better at the moment. Give it a couple of years and it'll be fine. Christopher 2000 says, maybe the 706 and 746 phone have an engineer lock on the switch hook that locks it down when you don't have the handset on the cradle. Yes, they do. At least a lot of them do. A lot of them do. Some of them don't. Yeah. Normally, there's a little plastic thing on a 746. I think it's a little plastic thing near the switch hooks. On a 706, what is the? I think it's a metal lever on a 706, a little metal lever. But there's a little lever inside that you can't quite work out what it does really. And it's when you press the switch hook down, you move this lever, and it kind of butts up against it and stops it lifting up again. I mean, it's exactly that reason, like you say, Christopher. It's like an engineer's lock, so you can simulate the handset being on the hook when the handset's not actually on the hook because you've got all the casing off the phone. Graham says, thanks to the Doctor Who rant, Andy. Yes, any time, Graham. There are lots of people on YouTube who will do you a Doctor Who rant if you like to see a Doctor Who rant, but there's lots of them out there doing it. But yeah, I'm sure we'll have another one along shortly. Yeah, it's just all science fiction has kind of gone down the pan at the moment, and I think the reason it's gone down the pan is there's nobody with enough creativity left in the world to write it anymore, because all the science fiction that is around is a rehash of something that somebody else created. You know, Disney's now doing Star Wars to death. Disney didn't think of Star Wars, they just paid for it. George Lucas thought of it, George Lucas created it, and now they've got a bunch of idiots just basically monkeys typing on typewriters, trying to not create the works of William Shakespeare, but trying to create the works of George Lucas. Of course they're failing, but they're turning it out as movies anyway. The trouble is nobody writes anything original anymore. Forget coming up with a new version of Star Trek, forget coming up with a new version of Star Wars, forget rehashing Doctor Who. Do something original. Do something original. Do something totally original. Start with a blank sheet and come up with something original. That's what we want to see. Right, that really is about it for today. Thanks to everybody for watching again. I'm just going to finish off the chat just to say, Chris says he's using his GPO 706 as his house phone now. Excellent stuff. And Graham says it's the same with music, TV and movies. Everything's a remake. Yeah, it is. Everything's a remake. Yeah. There's just nobody with any creativity anymore. That's exactly the problem. Everything is a remake, and it is very, very rare. I'm not saying it totally doesn't happen, but it's very, very rare for a remake to be as good as an original of something, and it's even rarer for it to be better than the original. So why bother doing it? Just show the original. You know, if you want to, if there's a following for something, and you run the risk of remaking it and making an absolute pig's ear of it and really cocking it up and offending all the fans and that, why bother remaking it? Why spend all that time and money remaking it? Why not just repeat the original one? I mean, a good example here in the UK is a sitcom, Dad's Army, that's running on BBC Two on a Saturday night. Has been doing it for the last 2 or 3 years now. That has gone from episode 1 right through and up to the last episode 3 times now without it coming off air, without it breaking. It's just gone from episode 1 right through to whatever the last one is, then the following week started at 1 again, gone right through again, and it's just started at 1 again now, this last week, and it never comes off. And there's an outcry. If they take it off on a Saturday night, this show that was made in the 60s and 70s, if they take it off now on a Saturday night and put some new programming on, there's an outcry. Put Dad's Army back. So why can they not do that with everything? I'd watch the Tom Baker Doctor Who's and that if they put the Tom Baker Doctor Who's on, but I bloody hell won't watch the Jodie Whittaker ones. Ben says, don't panic, Mr. Mannering. Don't panic, Mr. Mainwaring, I think you should say. Chris says he was filming a 1980s classic loco last week, the N-Class. Yeah, I saw a bit of that video, actually. It's quite good. If you've not checked out Christopher's channel, Christopher 2000 on YouTube, when we finish here, go and check out his channel. If you're into railways and that, he's got lots of Australian railway stuff on his channel, which is kind of brilliant because Australian Railways are kind of like a cross between British Railways and American railroads. So it's certainly a different sort of atmosphere on the railways over there. Graham says he's been watching Steptoe again. You dirty old man, Harold. Yeah, he says he's been watching Steptoe again. Yeah, why not? Why not watch Steptoe again? I like the one where they split the room in half and have a sort of line, a taped line down the middle of the television set, and one of them complains because the other one's got the buttons on his side. Yeah. Christopher says he's got the DVD of Dad's Army. I hope you got the DVD of the proper Dad's Army, not the DVD of the rubbish film that they made a few years ago. Because they made an absolutely terrible movie of it about 4 or 5 years ago. Really, really, really terrible. Of course, none of the original cast in it, because I think almost all of the cast of Dad's Army are dead. So they recast it, made a movie a few years ago, and the movie is awful. It's almost as bad as Doctor Who. Right, I think that's going to be it for today. I think we've exhausted it. I can rant no longer. My head is about to explode if I have to think about Jodie Whittaker any longer. So thanks for joining us here on the show today. We will be back next week and back to a bit more normality next week. A bit more about the telephones. We'll try and find out if I can find a little battery to go in here maybe by next week. Although with the lockdown, having to get everything through the post, it might be a little bit difficult. But I've just realised that there may be a date on this. Yeah, the date on this battery is Jan 1978. There is a date on it. You'll probably not be able to see it, but there's a date right at the bottom there. It says date, and then there is a date, and it says Jan 78. There you go. So the battery is as old as the phone. It's never been replaced. That battery in that phone, which probably explains why it's in the state it's in. Where's it gone? It's disappeared. Hang on. Probably explains why it's like that. And all sort of exploded and things. Right, we will do away with that, I think. Right, so thank you everybody for joining us. Thanks to Graham and Chris and Dominic and Fat Hobbit and all the rest of the team. I'll say we'll be back same time, same place or thereabouts. Might be on time next week at 6 o'clock UK time next Sunday evening. And until then, remember, you can always catch up with some of the other stuff that we've been doing by going to the website andyshed.corepress.net. And if you're not subscribed already, why not hit that subscribe button? And if you want to be notified of what we're doing when a video comes out as well, then hit the bell icon as well at the side of the subscribe thing. We are marching towards that magic 1,000 subscribers, which hopefully we'll be able to hit soon. So hopefully that'll make a big difference to us. So from me for now, until next week, thanks for watching everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.